Welcome to Alaska Weather. This is Eric Holloway with the National Weather Service for February 23rd, 2023. A couple options for you. 1-800 number gets you in a phone menu system or out on the World Wide Web at weather.gov/Alaska. And you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email us. Taking a look at the WAWA map, the watch warnings and advisory map for the state of Alaska. So we have a bunch of stuff going on. Blizzard warning until 9 a.m. Thursday for Norton Sound area, 9 a.m. on Friday for the Beaufort Sea coast up there. For much of the western and central portions of the interior, south of the Brooks Range, we have a winter storm warning out until 9 a.m. or 9 a.m. Thursday or 9 p.m. Thursday for those areas. And then for the eastern portions of the interior over into Fort Yukon and southeast portion of the Brooks Range, we have that winter storm warning out until 6 a.m. for those areas on Friday. And then last we have advisory for the eastern Brooks Range up there until 6 a.m. on Friday, and then an advisory for south central Alaska, and that's going to start tonight or tomorrow for portions of that south central area, and then we're going to have until Thursday morning in some of those areas as well. Lastly, we do have a special weather statement out for the Panhandle for Friday and Saturday for snowfall. So check out the watch warnings and advisories out on those options I talked about in the earlier slide. So taking a look at the winter weather advisories, just looking at some of these amounts here. So Anchorage, the hillside is going to go for 6 to 10. Here in town, up to 2 inches, and with gusty winds associated with that. But out in the Susitna Valley, 6 to 9 inches out there from 6 a.m. till 9 p.m. And then western Kenai, basically from midnight till 5 p.m. on Thursday. Mixed precipitation up to 3 inches of snow and some glazed ice as well. So we'll be looking for that. And then down or up in the interior, looking at expected snowfall from anywhere in the uplands, 6 to 8 inches in the Fairbanks area, 4 to 6 down in Salcha, and then over in the Denali Park area, 4 to 6 inches with higher amounts possible. So looking at the satellite image, there's the low complex. You can see almost a double-headed low out there with a swirling system and a frontal system coming into the west coast. There are lots of snow showers, rain showers down through the Bristol Bay region, and some moderate to heavy snowfall in portions of the Norton Sound, Nulato Hills area. And then you can see that system on the surface map here, 962 millibar low driving that occluded front and triple point spreading over in the Seward Peninsula. Pretty quiet over in the Panhandle with high pressure dominating in the Gulf of Alaska. But again, snow showers over much of the western interior and west coast, and rain showers further south, and mixed precipitation out through the Bering Sea and into the Aleutians. For tonight's weather, occluded front moves further east. Snow showers continues. Moderate to heavy snow possible in the Brooks Range there, and some snow showers in south central as well, as we talked about all the watch warnings and advisories out. And then we have a weakening low out there in the Bering Sea, driving some mixed precipitation down through much of the Bering Sea and into the Aleutians. And then for Thursday, snow showers finally show up there in the Panhandle, 1,014 millibars there with a low breaking off in that occluded front, driving some mixed precipitation in the Gulf of Alaska, some freezing drizzle in the interior, and blowing and drifting snow across the Brooks Range and Seward Peninsula, but lingering snow showers through much of the mainland. And then for Friday's weather, again, continuing light snow showers through much of the interior, snow showers showing up in the Panhandle with that low, now a warm front, cold front scenario there, 995 millibars, and some blowing snow along the Brooks Range with another weakening low out there near the Seward Peninsula, 1,003 millibars. And lastly, another low showing up there out in the western Aleutians, 989 millibar low with an occluded front. And then finally, so looking at the temperatures here, like 16 in Ketchikan, 23 in Sitka, 11 in Juneau, Yakutat 19, Valdez 22, 23 in Anchorage, 32 in Homer, 36 in Kodiak, McGrath 28, 21 in Talkeetna, 36 in King Salmon. Then over in Ketchikan, high temperatures Thursday morning, 24, 27 in Sitka, 23 in Juneau, 31 in Yakutat, Valdez, 32, 36 in Anchorage, 46 in Kodiak, 39 in McGrath, 32 in Talkeetna, 46 in Kodiak. Then for low temperatures Friday morning, looking at 19 there in Ketchikan, 27 in Sitka, 21 in Juneau, 27 in Yakutat, Valdez, 24, 27 in Anchorage, 33 in Homer, 33 in Kodiak, 17 in McGrath, 20 in Talkeetna, 33 in Kodiak. Then for high temperatures Friday afternoon, 28 there in Ketchikan, 39 in Sitka, 28 in Juneau, 36 in Yakutat, Valdez, 30, 29 in Anchorage, 36 in Homer, 39 in Kodiak, 34 in King Salmon, 27 in McGrath, and 29 in Talkeetna. Then up through the interior and North Slope, looking at 9 in Fairbanks, -9 in Northway, -2 in Eagle, -7 in Fort Yukon, Aniktuvic Pass, 9 Ukiavik, -2, Point Hope 25, 29 in Nome, and 25 in Galena, and 10 in Tanana. Then for high temperatures Thursday afternoon, looking at 10 in Northway, 30 in Fairbanks, 13 in Eagle, 12 in Fort Yukon, 20 in Aniktuvic Pass, 19 in Ukiavik, 28 in Point Hope, 30 in Nome, 37 in Galena, 28 in Tanana. Then for low temperatures Friday morning, looking at -1 in Northway, 17 in Fairbanks, 4 in Eagle, 6 in Fort Yukon, 13 in Aniktuvic Pass, 4 in Ukiavik, Point Hope 2, 15 in Nome, 13 in Galena, and 14 in Tanana. Finally, high temperatures Friday afternoon for interior and North Slope, 17 in Northway, 27 in Fairbanks, 19 in Eagle, 21 in Fort Yukon, 15 in Aniktuvic Pass, 9 in Ukiavik, 6 in Point Hope, Nome 22, 25 in Galena, 23 in Tanana. Then down through the southwest and Alaska Peninsula, Aleutians looking at 32 in Bethel, 33 in Antioch, 34 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 36, Dutch Harbor 37, 31 in Shemya, 32 in St. Paul. Then for high temperatures Thursday afternoon, looking at 35 in Bethel, 36 in Antioch, 37 in Dillingham, Cold Bay 39, 40 in Dutch Harbor, 34 in Shemya, 35 in St. Paul. Then as we look at low temperatures Friday morning, looking at 23 in Bethel, 19 in Antioch, 26 in Dillingham, 28 in Cold Bay, 34 in Dillingham, 28 in Shemya, 28 in St. Paul. Then for high temperatures Friday afternoon, looking at 29 in Bethel, 29 in Antioch, 32 in Dillingham, 36 in Cold Bay, Dutch Harbor 38, Shemya 37, and 32 in St. Paul. For the CPC 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for February 28th through March 4th, looking at cold tilts with weak ridging in the Gulf of Alaska, bringing some westerly flow across the state, and looking at, again, above normal tilts, especially across south central and northern panhandle, and to some extent lesser tilts favorable for cold temperatures across much of the mainland. Then as we look at the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook for March 28th through March 4th, above normal tilts, especially across the interior, but across the state, much across the state otherwise, and even into the panhandle. And then we look at the CPC's 8 to 14 temperature outlook for March 2nd through March 8th, looking again below normal tilts across much of the state, but especially across south central and the northern panhandle. And again, I think that's going to be from that ridging in the Northeast Pacific. And then lastly, some above normal tilts for the 8 to 14 precipitation outlooks, but especially across much of the West Coast and Waikiki.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the aviation forecast, starting with flying weather on Thursday morning. We're looking at IFR conditions through much of the west coast and into the interior as that system continues to pull through the state of Alaska. And then IFR conditions extends down into the Gulf and across the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, and into South Central. Marginal conditions out ahead of that system. Otherwise, marginal conditions back through the Bering Sea and into the Aleutians. For flying weather Thursday afternoon, improving conditions, especially over the mainland. Really nice flying weather over the Panhandle. That'll last into Friday, but otherwise, IFR conditions in the Gulf of Alaska and into south central portions of the Alaska Range remains in IFR conditions. Otherwise, marginal conditions through much of the interior and west, and IFR conditions along the Brooks Range out in the Arctic Ocean. Otherwise, pretty good flying conditions out there in the Aleutians and Bering Sea. And then for Friday morning, IFR conditions do pull into the Panhandle finally with some snow showers there on Friday. So IFR conditions in the northern and central Panhandle extending up into south central Prince William Sound, and IFR conditions over in the southwest with the next system coming in there. Otherwise, marginal conditions spread out through much of the mainland and into the northern Bering. IFR conditions lingers along the Brooks Range and into the Arctic Ocean. And then for Friday afternoon, there's the closing system there in the Panhandle. IFR conditions throughout much of the Panhandle now, and that extends up into southeast interior with marginal conditions back through the southern mainland and into the interior. Otherwise, IFR conditions out there in the western Aleutians and some lingering IFR conditions up along the Brooks Range. For pass conditions, I went for Anaktuvik Pass being IFR conditions for most of the day on Thursday. Better conditions, you can pop out into the North Slope. Same for Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, looking at IFR conditions improving to marginal. And again, most of these pass locations through much of the Brooks Range and even the Alaska Range will see some low-level turbulence there, especially on Thursday. But continuing into Rainy Pass, IFR conditions improving to marginal conditions. And windy, I went for IFR conditions the entire day on Thursday. Marginal conditions as you pop into the north entrance. And then for same conditions there at Isabel. And then for Menasta, VFR conditions out there early and then decreasing to marginal. Tanita, IFR conditions, same for Portage. And then over into Chilkoot and White, should see some decent flying weather in the Panhandle with VFR conditions down there. And then for freezing levels, looking at freezing level at the surface cutting across the western Aleutians into the Bering Sea, over into the southwest portion of the state and down through the Gulf of Alaska, with elevated freezing levels there popping into the southwest, anywhere between 2,000 to 10,000 feet as you get into the northeast Pacific. And then for icing conditions on Wednesday, looking at an isolated moderate spread through much of the Aleutians, and that continues up into most of the state of Alaska with anywhere between 4,000 and 8,000 feet spread out in locations with considerable moderate in portions of the southwest and interior and eastern mainland and up along the Brooks Range. And then for the jet stream on Thursday, high pressure in the northeast Pacific, driving some strong winds, southwesterly flow coming into southwest Alaska, cutting across the Alaska Peninsula and into the mainland with anywhere between 140 to 145 knots, and then northerly flow as you get more over into the Panhandle, 90 knots there over the Panhandle, lesser speeds up there along the Arctic coast. And then for 9,000-foot winds, westerly winds coming in the western part of Alaska, anywhere between 65 and 70, and that cuts across most of the mainland, more northerly flow over the Panhandle. And then for 3,000-foot winds on Thursday, looking at westerly flow comes into the western part of the state of Alaska, light and variable across the Panhandle. And then for turbulence, looking anywhere between surface and 3,000 feet, but turbulence cutting across most of the western mainland with areas of isolated severe.
Our ancestors, as Inupiaq people, they had to adapt and overcome every single day. If the ice isn't coming in the way it usually does, we got to figure out a way to go and still maintain our subsistence lifestyle. Rural Alaska has the highest rate of suicide per capita for the entire United States. I lost 13 of my basketball teammates and classmates to alcohol-related deaths and suicides. I went to that dark place in my life. That's when a kid said, hey, you should try out for American Ninja Warrior.
More than 40,000 applicants.
So I built a ninja course. Uniloclete, you know, it's only accessible by plane or boat. You can't just go to a Home Depot or get materials. Went walking down on the beach and just picked up logs and turned them into Ninja Warrior obstacles, and that was my training ground.
Uniloclete is a community that sits where the Uniloclete River comes down and feeds into the Bering Sea. Much like other communities, Uniloclete relies on shorefast ice to protect it from storms throughout the winter.
And that ice kind of comes right up against the beach, and it creates this barrier between us and weather.
When that shorefast ice is gone, that protective barrier is gone, it presents an immense challenge as that coastline is eroded.
Back in September, we had a big storm.
Basically flooded my entire course and tore apart like half of my obstacles.
And I was hopeless, you know, there was nothing I could do against the weather. But more importantly, we were wondering if we were gonna have to evacuate town. We were worried if we were safe or not.
The ice season in the Bering Sea region has shifted from November to June to January to late April.
By February, we'd have maybe 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet of ice by springtime. I used to help our aunties and grandmothers when they went ice fishing. If you're small, younger, 12 years old, you have to get inside that hole.
Sometimes it's so deep I can't even reach the bottom of my dock. And you keep chipping, but you can't pull the slush out.
When you get near the bottom, a water will rush up. If you're not careful, you'll get all wet. Now we're lucky if we get 6 inches, 12 inches a year.
You know, in my lifetime, I've seen the amount of ice almost diminish.
As you lose protective shorefast ice along the coast, communities are exposed to a rough ocean for much longer periods throughout the year.
You get a 20-mile-an-hour wind, those waves get pretty big, and they start eating away at the land that we live on.
Well, Uniloclete's a village of 750 people. There's a river on one side and then the ocean on the other side.
When you have storm surge, it's not only a rising sea, but a rising river as well.
We're lucky that we do have a dike made up of rock. However, that rock settles with wave action. The wave action becomes larger and just more water with full force hitting the beach. When this high water comes, it a lot of times can go over even the airport runway. And it brings in wood, it brings in rock. Well, we kind of become like an island. We're surrounded by water.
There are communities all the way from the northern side of the Seward Peninsula all the way down to the Aleutian Islands that are facing extreme rates of coastal erosion.
Beaches are kind of washing away. We're seeing a lot of landslides. We're seeing a lot of sinkholes.
Back when I grew up as a little boy, and we'd travel the ocean ice to Shaktoolik about 44 miles, and we no longer can do that. We're having to travel on an inland trail, and a lot of times it's not enough snow or consistent rain melting the snow.
Our springs are thawing out earlier. The foundation of the frozen river is not as solid as it has been in the past. Last fall, my wife's uncle raced down to get some tomcats, got a few tomcats, coming back, fell through the ice and drowned. I need to haul wood earlier in the winter instead of waiting in the spring like we've been doing.
Sooner or later, our lowlands may get flooded out.
You know, moving out of here, it just has never been an option for me.
The only options are relocating, and some people are doing that along the hillside.
the community of Unalakleet decided to set up an allotment for young people that, wanted to have their own place to live. They wanted their own piece of land and their own home.
Get up in the higher areas for safety.
I want to, eventually have my own kids, and, I just wanted to have my own place and just, my kids to grow up and say, my dad built this house with his bare hands. Change is tough for a lot of elders. Like, this is their home. This is where they grew up.
It took me 25 years to pay off a 3-bedroom home, and I can't afford to even consider moving my home.
Born in Alaska, raised in Unalakleet. It's heaven on earth if you live here for long enough. Once I started doing American Ninja Warrior, the entire community just fully supported me. Here I am auditioning and sending you guys a video, so pick me. The producers of the show loved it.
Quickly through these first 2 hops is a wild ride. Nick Hansen, go on with your bad self.
It turned into this crazy phenomenon. So now it's just a matter of starting from scratch. It's an opportunity to start something fresh and start something new, and it's going to be amazing.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Taking a look at the marine forecast, starting with the ice edge. The ice edge continues to retreat north with these low pressure systems coming into the Bering Sea, driving that ice pack slowly north. Looking at the marine forecast for Thursday, for the inside waters, winds generally from a variable direction up to 20 with seas as high as 4 feet. Outside waters, winds generally from a easterly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 7 feet. For Friday's marine forecast, in the inside waters, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 4 feet. And for the outside waters, winds generally from a southerly direction up to 30 with seas as high as 10 feet. So look for small craft advisory there on Friday. And then for the Gulf region near and Prince William Sound, looking at winds generally from a variable direction 15 to 25 with seas as high as 6 feet. And for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from a variable direction 10 to 20 with seas as high as 5 feet. Then for Friday's marine forecast for the Gulf region in South Central, looking at winds generally from a variable direction up to 35 with seas as high as 9 feet. So look for small craft or gales there on Friday. And then for Prince William Sound, winds generally from a variable direction up to 10. And then for the Cook Inlet region, winds generally from the west at 10 to 30 with seas as high as 9 feet in the Kamishak Bay region. And then for Thursday's marine forecast, Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island, winds around Kodiak Island generally from a southwesterly direction 15 to 20 with seas as high as 9 feet. And then for the south side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a westerly direction up to 20 with seas as high as 12 feet. So look for a small craft advisory there on Thursday. And then for north side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a southwesterly direction 20 to 25 with seas as high as 12 feet. And looks like we're going to get a small craft advisory there on Thursday. For Friday's marine forecast, winds around Kodiak Island generally from a westerly direction 20 to 30 with seas as high as 9 feet. And then for the south side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from the west at 30 with seas as high as 11. So look for small craft or gales there on Friday. And then for the north side Alaska Peninsula, winds generally from a westerly direction up to 30 with seas as high as 12 feet. Again, look for gales or small craft there on Friday. For loosened chain on Thursday, winds generally from the southwest at 20 to 35 with seas as high as 16 feet there south of Adak and Atka. So look for small craft or gales there on Thursday. And then for Friday, winds generally from a southerly direction over there in the western Aleutians, more of a westerly direction as you get into the central and eastern Aleutians, but otherwise speeds up to around 45 there in the western Aleutians with seas as high as 22 feet. So look for gales or storm force there on Friday. And then for Thursday, for the west coast, looking at winds generally from a southwesterly direction, anywhere between 30 and 40 with seas as high as 20 feet just south of the ice pack there, around seas as high as 19 feet near the Pribs. And then for Friday, winds generally from a westerly direction, 25 to 30 with seas as high as 12 feet. So look for small craft advisory there on Friday around the Pribilofs and south of the ice pack. And then for Thursday's marine forecast for Arctic coast, along the Beaufort Sea coast, winds generally from the southeast at 30, down through the Chukchi Sea coast, winds from the south at 40, and then down through the Bering Strait, winds from the south at 45. And then for Friday's marine forecast for the Arctic coast, Beaufort Sea coast, looking at winds generally from the west at 25, down through the Beaufort Sea coast, winds generally from a westerly direction 30 to 35, and down through the Bering Strait, winds from the west at 25. And then looking at the surface map, once again, looking at low pressure system there entering the Chukchi Sea with an occluded front pressing through the mainland with snow showers, some of heavy to moderate across the Brooks Range into the Seward Peninsula, and then rain showers further south in the Alaska Peninsula, Kodak Island, and then some lingering snow showers down through the Aleutians. And then for Thursday, low pressure shows up there in the Gulf of Alaska, driving some snow showers into the Panhandle, but otherwise lingering snow showers through the mainland with areas of freezing drizzle in the interior up against the Alaska Range, and lingering snow showers out there in the Aleutians.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.